welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar covers the topic of online ethics and protecting your reputation online. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is David Fleck and I'm the Programs Officer here at the London School of Public Relations. We'll be joined today by Olga Ivannikova, one of LSPR's specialists in corporate social responsibility and also a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. Olga can't wait to get started with you guys today, and we hope that you have a really good session. One final reminder that if you do have any questions, they will be answered at the end of the webinar. But for now, I will hand you over to Olga, who will begin today's session. Thanks, Olga.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your interest in this topic, and a huge thank you to the London School of PR and David in particular for arranging all of us to get together. Our online presence has always been important, right? When we stop just talking to our friends or our colleagues in the privacy of our homes, but started talking to the whole world, that creates great opportunities for engagement. We can say something and loads of people can hear it. But if we're not mindful about this, if we don't consider online ethics, this can be potentially dangerous to our reputation. So I want to start with the first and most important rule about how to protect your reputation online. Before you post anything, think, do you want to see this in a newspaper next to your name? And because it happens even for people who are not public figures, and even not things that are on Twitter, for example, but even things that you think you're just sending them to your colleagues, it can end up in a newspaper. And always bear it in mind. Now, the reason why we're having this conversation now in particular is because as we're living amidst a global pandemic, we are spending more time online and we are posting more. I don't know about you, but I definitely feel more reliant on online interactions. And the lines between home and work, they're more blurry. So so we need to think about these things more. I'm going to just go through 3 examples because Deloitte reported that social media is a domain for building or destroying reputations. I'll talk to you 3 examples and you can decide whether you agree with the statement or not. One is very recent, from Elon Musk, who on the 1st of May this year, 1st of May, 4 p.m., tweeted, "Tesla stock is too high, IMO, in my opinion." So 7 words or 9 words if you count IMO as 3 words. The next day, Tesla stock stumbled more than 11%. So by noon, so he posted at 4 p.m., and by noon the next day, he wiped out with this tweet $16 billion of his own company's value. The second example is from CrossFit CEO Greg Glassman. I don't know if you've heard about it, but he tweeted 2 inappropriate tweets about the brutal murder of George Floyd that shocked all of us, that shocked the whole world. And while I'm not going to repeat his tweets, several athletes that are associated with CrossFit said they were incredibly saddened, disappointed, and frustrated with his comments. Who else saw that tweet was someone who works for Adidas. Do you know Adidas? They're sportswear, but they also own Reebok. So they saw that and shortly after issued a statement confirming that it was ending its relationship with CrossFit. Mr. Glassman now resigned, but the damage to the company is done. I don't know if Adidas is going to continue working with CrossFit after this, disaster. In 2016, the NHS Trust was fined for revealing the names of 730 people who used their HIV service because a staff member used 2 instead of BCC in an email. So because one staff member didn't know how to use email properly, or wasn't trained on how to use email properly, the results were catastrophic, to individuals whose such important information was revealed. And actually, with so much at stake, I'm really surprised that we don't talk about online ethics more. And it matters to us as individuals, but it also matters to companies, because actually the Financial Times reported that most CEOs now leave their jobs not because of something to do with the financial performance or because a company isn't making enough profit, but because of ethical issues. More than half of people leave because they do or say something unethical. And I'm sure that the statistics are the way they are because it's so easy to post online. Where before perhaps their CEO statement would be proofread by the whole team of people, now they have direct access to the world, and it's not always a good thing for companies. I want to explain why I use the word ethics rather than etiquette. And etiquette or netiquette, online etiquette, is a good thing, but I think it's more about being polite, right? It's a good thing to be polite, but ethics just takes one other step. It's about doing and saying the right thing for yourself and for others, and it's about being a good online citizen. So we will talk about that in the next half an hour or so. Actually, another thing about ethics, the reason why I like ethics rather than etiquette is because ethics is uncertain, right? Philosophers and society have been debating them for thousands of years, and they haven't got all the answers yet. So, and it removes, and this uncertainty removes certain arrogance, I would say. So you say, as an ethics professional, you say, I don't know absolute truth, but I'm trying to educate myself. And anybody who practices this or posts online, it's a really good thing to have. To think, I don't know everything. I need to pause and think. And the truth is, the reason why we're still talking about this and we don't just have a guide of do this and don't do that we can share with the whole world and be done with it, is because social interactions aren't easy, right? They're not easy, and we don't have these social cues. We can't take advantage of somebody's body language or facial expressions or the tone of voice. So it is hard, and lots of time people get into trouble, or not because they mean to, but because it is really hard. So the first rule of online ethics is don't say anything you don't want in a newspaper. The second one is pause, wait, and think. Why am I talking? Why am I tweeting? Why am I emailing? Right? And this acronym, it comes from, I've heard of it from someone who's done training. Let's go to our first poll and ask about why, how much time you spend online every day. Can you see? So less than 1 hour is one option, 1 to 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, 7 to 10 hours, and 12 hours plus, or 11 hours plus. See as the results are coming in. I will tell you that I am very much in a 12 hours plus category, because I don't just manage my own social presence, my own presence online. I manage about 7 accounts. So I've got 2 businesses, I've got personal, I manage accounts for my clients. So I'm just online all the time. Let's have a look at your results. Interesting. Well, nobody's less than 1 hour, but 17% are 1 to 4 hours. That's still well done. That's pretty impressive. But the majority is in 4 to 6 hours. Right. Well, thank you for spending some of it with us. But I think it illustrates every time that we spend so much time online and what we say really matters. Let's go quickly to the second poll, if we may, about the purpose of the very last thing you posted on social media. Have a think. The last time you put something on Facebook, Instagram, why did you do it? Really good. Right. So the results are in, and to share 50% used to share information. A very good reason to share something. A very good reason indeed. But I would like to say, while I have you on this point, that it's very important to check and double check the information that you're sharing. So for example, on Twitter, it's very easy to retweet, and if you haven't even read the article, and they're testing a new app, a new thing, that if you're on Android, that if you try to retweet something you haven't clicked on, you actually wouldn't be able to do that until you clicked. Because, you know, it's very important, whatever you share, and especially about Twitter, said, oh, retweets are not endorsements, people say. But they are endorsements, because whenever you choose to share something with all of your audience, with all of your friends, with all of your followers, you are kind of endorsing it, because you're saying, this is the message I want you to see. So sharing is a very good thing, and that's how, you know, we all learn, but be very, very mindful of it. The next one is promote something. And then we had somebody, Patricia, saying to build followership. Yes, very good. So when you're talking about why am I tweeting or why am I talking, these are good reasons. I'm just going to ask you to think about 3 more questions. One is this post, so now you know why you're doing it, but is this post or an email the best way to achieve your goal? So when you do it next time, perhaps think, is this the best way to achieve your goal? This particular wording. Then, is this the right message for this platform? So for example, if you have really interesting thoughts about fashion, Instagram is perfect, right? But LinkedIn, perhaps not so much. So make sure that what you're saying the right thing for the right reason, but in the right place as well. And finally, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, is, am I living my values? If you are posting on behalf of a company, or if you work for a company, am I living my brand values? And everything you post should be suitable to your values. And when somebody looks at your page, for example, your Twitter, the last few tweets, people should be able to tell what your values are straight away. So please, if you may, can you share in chat what your values are? And David, can you come back and tell us what your values are?
Hello.
Or we just tell people that some values are examples are honesty, loyalty, you know, this sort of thing. What matters to you most to you?
So whilst people just type those in chat, Olga did ask me what my values were to have them prepared before the session. So I've happily done that. One of my main values is optimism. I like to stay optimistic all the time, or as much as I can. Obviously, there's times that get you down slightly, but I generally like to keep a very optimistic front on. Kindness is another one of my values. I like to be kind to everybody in any way that I can, strangers, friends, family, because there's no point being unkind, in my opinion. Humour is another one of my values. I like to bring humour into situations. Not all the time. There are times to be serious, but in general, I do like to be humorous sometimes. Another value that I jotted down that I thought was very important was trustworthiness. I think it's very important to have trust between people that you know, just to create a better life, really. Because if you're surrounding yourself with untrustworthy people, then I think that just opens yourself up to drama, which I
absolutely
have time for. Another one that there's a bit of a combination of values was wisdom and learning. I always like to continue learning and always open myself up to new things and keep myself continually researching, reading, watching, listening. I just really like to be somebody that knows as much as possible.
And you know, David, it's really, we're talking about communications, and I've seen so many emails from you, and we have met so many times, and you really, I think, live your values. And if we just go through our email chain, I think you can really see that you are true to them in the way you communicate, which is brilliant. Let's have a look at what the results are coming in. Excellent. So we have credibility. Yes, very important for corporate communications as well. Trustworthiness, same as David. Expertise, clarity, positivity, empathy. Empathy is really good, and empathy will really save you, you know, with online communications. Whatever you do, if you do so with empathy, you'll be all right. And we have Patricia is talking about integrity, honesty, originality, humor. Fantastic. Can you imagine if somebody described your online presence in that way? How do you feel about Patricia and her, her Instagram? I think it's really honest. It's original. It's funny. Fantastic. Then we have collaboration, sharing best practices. Then we have tolerance. Tolerance is really important. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So this is a great. Thanks a lot. These are all very good values to have. And when you post something, just remind yourself of them. So I have my values and I have them. So, sometimes you don't think about them, but I try to think of them a lot and I communicate them to people. For example, lots of people want to publish articles on my blog. And before they submit something, I said, yes, I can share it if I find it interesting, but they have to be true to my values. And if they're not, then I will not share that content. So in a way, your values protect you. So going back to the reason why you're posting, there's all the reasons you shared are good reasons, but there's one bad reason. And there's one bad reason that we actually share things all the time. And it's known as this: people on the internet are wrong. Don't you know it? When you go online and you just see people on the internet being wrong all the time, and the blood pressure goes up and you think, oh, I should respond to this. And that's when when we see some injustice, we don't wait. We just post a response, and that can get us into trouble. Having said that, there are some times when you do need to correct people. And I'm going to use this example, which again came from only last week, I think, from Yorkshire Tea. Yorkshire Tea is a brand, they make tea. And somebody tweeted at them and they said, I'm so glad that you're not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And they saw it and they decided to respond and said, we do support the Black Lives Matter movement. We're just taking time to educate ourselves. And if you are racist, if you don't support this movement, don't drink our tea. And the lady in question, she was furious and just said, fine, I will never buy your tea again. I'm going to drink PG Tips, which is a different brand of tea. PG Tips saw this and they said, no, if you're racist, we don't want you to drink our tea neither. And this way, they said that they will not accept this custom from any custom from racists. And they coined a hashtag, and I think it's brilliant. The hashtag is solidarity, but solidarity, T is in TEA, all the tea brands standing together against racism. So you see, there was a time when it was right to correct somebody, but it was to protect their reputation, to protect their brand, and they were living their values. And same as we have Eugenia, who's saying that for your values is tolerance. That's your value. Sometimes you have to speak up about this. But you can do that when it really matters, right? So when, for example, if Yorkshire Tea were to argue with everybody on the internet, so somebody says, I don't like Madonna, and they're like, you don't like Madonna, don't drink our tea. That would be crazy, right? So you have to pick your battles in order to really make a stand, in order to really make a difference. Can we go to our third poll? I'm really interested to know which channels you use most. Is it LinkedIn? Is it email? What's the most common method for communicating? LinkedIn. Right. Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore. It's really interesting to see lots of people are using it. Okay, we have our results. So we have 33% of people said Facebook. So that's Facebook. Facebook wins again. Then we have 25% said email, 17% said Twitter, and 8% said LinkedIn. Interesting. I wonder why that is. Can somebody tell us in chat? I'll be talking, but if you can say about why you're using this particular channel most. Yeah, and it's good to see that 25% of people said email, because one thing about email is that we have so much email. Don't you think? Every other heartbeat, somebody emails you, and it can. I know everyone always complains about it, and if you get in too much email, I'll give you one stat. Well, that the standard email, just kind of an average one, takes up about 4 grams of CO2 emissions. So this is an environmental issue. And this is a crazy stat. Listen to this. If everyone in the UK sent one fewer email per day, over the year, this would save 16,000 tons of carbon, which is the same as taking off 3,000 cars, diesel cars, off the road. Crazy, huh? So when somebody emails you loads, you can tell them, well, there is an ethical issue, an environmental issue here about exchanging so many emails. And the less you post or the less you email, you open up yourself to fewer risks as well. Okay, we have somebody saying about Twitter, because you can get news from lots of different sources that I follow. Yes, I do too. Actually, interestingly, and we said earlier that the main reason for you to share, to post something is to share. Loads of people are getting their news from social media, right? And I thought that the main platform would be Twitter. But yesterday, there was a report on BBC which said most people get their news from Instagram, right? I didn't know that. So it's talking about always learning, as David was saying about always learning.
You'll see here, sorry, just to add to you, Maisie has just said that exact thing, that Instagram, she finds images more engaging than words. So that's where she gets her news from. So I think that's
fantastic. Yeah, that's really great. I use Instagram as well, but I think I don't use it so much for business. I should. I know you do on London School of PR. You're very good on Instagram. For Twitter, just one point, that never, ever, ever expect a nuanced conversation. So always be as clear as you can, because other people just might misunderstand you. And consider your timing. So what would you use instead of email? Asks Lizzie. So depends on who you're talking to. So I prefer to use WhatsApp, for example, or just have a phone call. With loads of my partners, we can just WhatsApp each other, a couple of messages, because then you save this whole dear, blah, 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 all the very best. You just say, people who you have a close relationship with, like your colleagues and your partners, and you can just say, send me this, need this. And it just saves a lot of time and save plus email. But people use Slack as well. But you can look into other alternatives. So you could just use less of that. So in terms of timing, so timing of your messaging. Marathon, so a company has tweeted something about a marathon, and it said, congratulations, you survived this marathon. A lot of the time, this would be a perfectly fine message, right? We survived the marathon, congratulations. Unfortunately, this tweet came after the terrorist attack of Boston Marathon. You know, when the terrible thing happened. So the tweet saying, congratulations, you survived it, all was fine, for example, in the morning, but it became completely inappropriate later. So really be careful of your timing. And as we said, David said about always learning will really help you to be mindful of these issues and not to make mistakes because you're not aware of what's going on in the world. Let's go to our next slide about, so next slide, protected characteristics. Right, just close this poll. That was really great, thank you. We talk about ethics, and I said at the beginning that a lot of it is, there's a lot of gray, it's not black and white, you know, some things can be subject to interpretation, but there are some things that we do know for sure. And this here are 9 protected characteristics under equality, the Equality Act of the UK. So we have age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation. We said at the very beginning that before you post, you need to wait and consider why you're posting. If what you're talking about are any of these 9 issues, I would encourage you to take another moment to think whether what you're posting is the right thing, because this can be a sensitive issue. To discriminate against anybody on these issues is against the law, but also stereotyping against any of these issues can be can get you in a lot of trouble. And you might think, well, I would never stereotype someone. But the truth is, and it's terrible truth, that we all have bias. You have bias, I have bias, And the reason why we have it is because we are influenced by the media, by our culture, by our families, and our brain just makes decisions really quickly. We make assumptions really quickly. So if we don't stop and pause, sometimes we can have beliefs that are not appropriate. Even if you are a really lovely and person, you still, if you're posting about any of these things, I would consider just taking that extra couple of seconds to think about it. And yeah, just don't make jokes about these things. They'll probably, although there might be somebody and they'll come down well, but some people might not like them. Yeah, we have a question about WhatsApp, and we'll get to it in a bit. I just want to say our last slide about using. Yes, thank you for submitting that. About using positive words. And the thing is, your online presence is within your power, and you can use it for good, right? And if you use positive words, it's so good. And people, when people see them, it literally changes start happening in their brain, and the stress levels get reduced. It's true. The neuroscientists have written a book about it, and that you start thinking more clearly. So seeing positivity around you is good for you, and it's good for everybody on your network, on your followers, and you can do that. It's not easy. I think David said earlier about positivity is very important, but it's not always easy, particularly now when we see the news. It's just so hard to stay positive when you see so much suffering globally. So there's a useful guide for how to use some positive words. If you can't see it, it's a little small, please send LSPR an email and we'll forward you a transcribed version. But it's basically, instead of saying that someone is, you see somebody saying something, say, oh, they're so dramatic. Say, oh, they're really expressive, they're really passionate. Or somebody says, oh, they're very stubborn. Instead say, well, they're very determined. So using positive words is work, but it's something that will help you improve your online presence, that will help you protect your reputation and build better relationships. And so one final thing. So I think if you are kind and inclusive in your communications, and you just think about it a little, you will be all right. If your company, another thing is, you have to be strict to yourself. You always try to hold ourselves to a really high standard, but be kind to others. So other people might not use positive words at the moment, or other people might say things that are wrong. It's possible that there's some kind of cultural difference, or it's possible that people are going through a really hard time. So, let it go with other people. If you're a corporate, I would recommend having 3 things. Robust social media policies. So whoever is on your Twitter, people come and go, whoever is managing your Instagram, that they know what your social media policies are. Have a code of conduct that is discussed often and updated often, and a value statement that isn't just somewhere on your website and nobody knows what it is, but people know and people are living these values every day, and that they can really get behind it. And that way, not only do you protect your corporate account, but accounts of other people, whatever they're posting individually, if they know that they need to represent the values of their company. Finally, is just if you're kind, and I think Dalal said earlier, empathy is a good value, and empathetic, you will do great. Now let's get to questions.
Olga, did you want to start with that question in the Q&A there, the one about WhatsApp?
Yeah, so what are the risks using WhatsApp for business? So there are, obviously there are risks, and there are risks, as I said earlier, with any form of communication. I wouldn't use WhatsApp with your clients, and I wouldn't use WhatsApp with people who are not on your immediate network. But I would, yeah, of course, there are risks about tone, and sometimes it's easier to have maybe a WhatsApp video call if you're thinking that what you're saying might be misinterpreted. It also only works if you are fine with informal communications. For example, when I talk to my team, we don't need to say dear, blah, blah, blah all the time, but we can be more direct. And because we talk on Zoom all the time, they know that the meaning and the tone it's implied that we have a respectful relationship. So if I don't say dear or I hope you're well, they won't think anything of it. So I think that you need to only move communications to WhatsApp when you already have a strong relationship. But I'm sure you have strong relationship with loads of people. So that's a lot of email you can, things you can move out from email.
Thank you, Olga. You just mentioned really quickly there's Zoom. We have had some questions come in. Do you have any tips for using Zoom? Do you have any etiquette tips for when obviously we're on a webinar at the moment, but for other people that might be doing a webinar, or for people that have Zoom meetings a lot? Do you have any tips for those situations?
Yeah, well, I'm on Zoom all the time, and so is everyone else, it seems. You know, the Queen of England, who's 94 years old, she did her first Zoom call another day. So, you know, it's obviously a place to be. I think Zoom, I think it's very important to respect other people's time and stick to the agenda. So if you say, we're going to have this Zoom call and we're going to talk about these 3 or 4 things, perhaps as you're talking, you need to add more, but try to stick to the agenda nonetheless. And if you say you're going to have a call for half an hour, have it for half an hour. Because if you just go on, you think, well, I'm free, I can keep talking. Other people who you're talking to, they might have other plans, but they might be too polite to say that they don't, you know, they just stay on the call, but secretly they're annoyed. Another call, and actually has given me an opportunity to say thank you, Maisie. Maisie is actually on my on my team. So Maisie Osborne and Glenda Moore, who helped me with research in this webinar and research on online ethics. Anyway, when I asked them, what do you think are the rules for Zoom? Both of them said, oh, it's really important to dress professionally and not wear pajamas. And that's when I realized that they can see that I'm wearing pajamas when I'm talking to them. So I think if you're also having a professional meeting, dress professionally as well.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you. A question that came in the pre-webinar questionnaire. Somebody asked, is it okay to talk about politics?
Yeah. So yes, but so it's okay to talk about politics but if you're an individual in particular, because talking about politics and debating issues respectfully is the only way for democracy to survive, right? But if you are a business, or if you work for a business, I think that the helpful distinction I've heard about was the difference between political and party political, right? So at the moment in the UK, there's a bill being debated about the way we approach divorce. They want to introduce no-fault divorce as an option. And loads of lawyers are on social media, on all platforms, talking about it all the time. And it's political, right? It's being discussed at the very heart of politics. But that's absolutely fine. If they started saying, oh, Labour said this, and that just proves to you that, I don't know, that this, or Conservatives said this, and start getting into party political point scoring, that's the way they could get into trouble. But just talking about issues, if you do so respectfully, I think is good, and I think is necessary. But for brands, of course, brands have less discretion, because you need to really know what your values are and what your opinion is, you know. So I wouldn't just give it if somebody's managing your social media and just say, yeah, talk about politics whenever. You know, you need to have a clear messaging.
Yeah, so I guess that comes in. We've got another question through the Q&A that says, how does a business voice their opinion and share their values without it being misunderstood? So I guess that comes into that.
You're going to be misunderstood. I'm just saying it to you right now. Whatever you say, whatever opinion you have, someone is going to misunderstand you. You can have the best intentions. You can really mean really, really well, but there will be somebody on the internet who will see you doing good, or you saying a positive message, and will completely misunderstand it. So before you say anything, you need to be prepared for that risk. And about how to mitigate it, I think clarity. And I think if you're true to your values, and the excellent value we had from Dalal earlier about empathy. And you know what, some humility as well, when we said earlier about ethics and saying, I am 100% right. Said, I'm 100% right, I'm saying this, and there is no other way how anyone could say anything. This kind of business communication, or any communication, might get you into trouble. But if you say, we believe this, based on that, what do you think? I think that way you're showing authenticity, and you're showing that you're interested in other people's opinions, and that way you can generate engagement rather than piss people off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. If you do make an error of judgment or you say something incorrect, what corrective steps are there to take in that situation?
So you will say something incorrect. It's inevitable. And particularly, how I had a poll earlier, most people are spending 4-6 hours online. Loads of people like me are spending 12 hours plus online. If you spend so much time online, and if you share your thoughts with other people, whether it's by email or something, you will say something that will upset others, or that will be, that somebody will disagree with. And when that happens, I think to come back, because that humility will save you. I think people are really desperate for authenticity. And for brands, people are so desperate for authenticity. So if you can really authentically say, this is what we think, if you stand by this, and this is why, or, you know what, we got this wrong. We're sorry. We're going to learn from this, and we're going to do better. Whatever. And if you say that, just move on, learn from it, and move on. And just don't be too harsh on yourself, because, these things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice on LinkedIn, and if there's any pitfalls in using LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. So I love LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn all the time, and most of my clients come from LinkedIn. I think it's a platform, and actually I watched a really good lecture on how to use LinkedIn recently, and it said that LinkedIn used to be a tool for recruiters. So you go in there every couple of years when you have a new job, and you say, this is my name, this is my employment history, and maybe recruiters were using it every day, but business owners not so much, or business people not so much, where now everyone is on it talking about all sorts of issues. So it has become more a platform to learn from other people, to share information. And I think somebody said that there's a concept on LinkedIn of social selling. So if you go on LinkedIn and you connect with, for example, we do courses, right? And we connect with everybody who we think is interested in that course. And we direct message them saying that we have this going on, sign up, pay us money now. That's a really big pitfall. People do that, but that's, I think, is a mistake. Some situations where it might be appropriate when it's super tailored, but the rest of the time it's best to be helpful. So share information that's helpful to your target audience, that's interesting. When you see other people, support them, and then over time, and it's not overnight, but over time, over maybe months, people will see you as an expert in your field, in your area, and when they need something on that area, you'll be top of mind. So when they need something, for me, for example, and people want responsibility because they see my posts all the time, they think, oh, Olga. But I don't message people and say, buy my course. So I think it's a long game, LinkedIn. So I think to avoid pitfalls, just be aware of it. A lot about ethics is a long game. Just be patient. Is the answer to almost every question,
Yeah, I guess it's just about continuing that strong reputation that you want to uphold.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question. So we've had a question that came in previously. They said that they have trouble sometimes writing an online statement because they get the tone wrong. And they ask, is it best to avoid humour when writing an online statement?
So I don't think that people should completely avoid humour, because we really need it online. Particularly if you go online and you check the news and everything's terrible, to then go on your social media and see jokes from other people or see people using positive words, that can be really nice. So I would really not want to tell people to stop. I think that if you use jokes that are not offensive, so we talk about protected characteristics, don't make any jokes about those 9 protected characteristics. But other things, if they're not mean-spirited, and if you're prepared for your joke to fall flat, right? You can say something and you think it's funny. It might sound really funny when you say it out loud to your friends. But the way it's written down, without body language, and it falls flat and people think, well, that's a bit awkward. No harm done, really. So I think if you're prepared to take that risk, joke for sure. And even for brands as well, it's if you're authentic, but if you can have humility about it, to be like, well, I think it's funny, but maybe it's not. We need positivity. So let's not give up on humor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much, Olga. That is unfortunately all we do have time for today. I'd really like to say thank you, Olga, for sharing your expertise with everybody today. Me personally, I got so much out of the seminar, and I really hope that everybody else did. If you are interested in anything CSR related, Olga does run our CSR and sustainability course at LSPR. We also have the ability to create any bespoke courses that you may want. So if you do have anything that you need answered, please do get in touch and we'd be more than happy to help out. We can run a course for you as an individual, your team, a group, anything like that. We do also offer 40 other off-the-shelf courses, so please do head over to our website if you're interested in any of those. They're all approved and accredited by the CPD. That's basically it for
Thank you very much, David, and thank you everyone. Thank you for your time and for your kind comments and chat. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Olga, and I'll see everybody later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.